Hello guys, welcome back. My name's Nathan and today I'm going to be predicting Team Canada's 2020 World Junior roster. Now Team Canada, as always, is looking to get the gold medal in this year's World Championship, and the potential roster for this team is looking pretty good as well. So which players do I see making Team Canada's roster, and how well do I see them doing in this year's World Juniors? For all my predictions and for my final roster, watch till the end to find it all out. Now this year's World Juniors is set to be a super fascinating one for Team Canada. I don't know if they have the best roster on paper, but it's Team Canada, so they'll likely have one of the best chances, if not the best chance to secure gold in this year's tournament. But when it comes to this year's potential roster, there's a lot of ways they can go about it. In the past few years, we've seen some deep runs from them, but also some very good mixed teams with good offense, good defense, and solid goaltending. This year might be a little bit of a different story. I think the offense might be better than last year, but some of the defense might not be as good. We've seen some players, potentially like Noah Dobson, might get a full-time role in the NHL, which does weaken their team, but still, with the way they're going right now, they'll have a ton of fantastic players to choose from. With that in mind though, we're now going to go straight into my predictions for this World Junior team, and starting out with the forward lines and my predictions for this one. And again, these are where I think these guys will go. These are the guys I think they'll play with, and the guys that I think Team Canada will choose, not who I want to see on the roster. But starting us out in the first line on the left wing, I'm going to have Alexis Lafreniere getting first line minutes and being the best player on Team Canada. Now, he might not produce like the best player on Team Canada, but I think as an overall player of the talent that he has, he might be the best offensive choice. And when it goes to the left wingers on that side, I don't think there's a guy that really compares to Alexis Lafreniere right now. I don't think there's a guy that should. He is that good, and to me should get that spot. Now going to the center, who will center Alexis Lafreniere? For my first C for Team Canada, I have Byfield-Krebs. Of course, Arizona Coyotes center, he's a guy that's had a pretty solid stint so far with the Coyotes this season, and he was one of the guys that was kind of like, okay, I'm not sure if he's going to be on this roster, if I'm going to be 100% honest, but I think by the time December rolls around, Arizona, I think will still be in a playoff spot. But I think their best situation might be to send Hayton down to the World Junior team. Now we have Alexis Lafreniere as the left winger. We have Byfield-Krebs as the center on this first line. And going to my right winger for Team Canada on their first line, I'm going to go with a guy that's a little bit questionable for the team, but I think will make it, that being Kirby Dach. Now he's not questionable when it comes to skill. I think if he was going to go there, he would 100% get the opportunity and get the roster spot. But it's all about what Chicago wants to do right now. I think it's best for his development to be on Team Canada and be in the World Juniors, but Chicago might feel different. While they are not in a playoff spot and it's not even close, who knows what they decide to do. But if it does end up happening, I think that first line would be nasty. You have two centers there really in Hayton and Dach, and you have the versatility as well as the talent on that first line. Alright, with the first line over and done with, we're now going to shuffle into the second line for Team Canada. And starting out with the French guy that I can never pronounce correctly, it's Benoit Olivier Groulx. Now, Groulx so far has been a pretty great QMJHL player, but again, he's one of the oldest on that team. I'm pretty sure he was on the team last year, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's more of a center, but I still have him as a left wing. You'll see why, because the center on this second line deserves to be the center on the second line, but honestly, this second line is pretty fantastic. When you have a QMJHL player like Groulx, who's been so freaking amazing on that second line too, he could probably take Alexis Lafreniere's place if there's an injury or something, or maybe just be the first line player. Again, he's more of a mature guy, more of an older player, but still pretty freaking good. Now the reason Groulx isn't the center on the second line is because of my second line center, that being Joe Veleno of the Detroit Red Wings. Now Joe Veleno I was not impressed by in last year's World Juniors, but for the most part, he should be a guy that's a leader on Team Canada this year. Right now he's playing in the AHL, but we can kind of see a somewhat situation last year where we kind of saw with Rasmus Sandin, where he was just great in the AHL, got sent down to the World Juniors, and just dominated there. And with Joe Veleno, he hasn't been amazing in the AHL, but he's been good enough so far. And with the World Junior team and Team Canada, that is a huge addition there. Let's just say if that for whatever reason, maybe Hayton can't go to the World Juniors, he sticks with the Arizona Coyotes, Joe Veleno could potentially be the first line center on this Team Canada team if it does go that route. Now on the right side of this line, I'm going to go with Raphael Lavoie. Now this is an all-QMJHL line. You have Groulx, Veleno, and then Lavoie. So it's definitely the French second line. But for the most part, Lavoie is a guy that's an overager. He's 19 years old. He's still pretty old, but from a 2019 draftee, he likely will get a spot on Team Canada. And I don't know if he's deserving of a top 6 spot, at least right now, but he's a guy with some physicality on his end, being an older prospect. I think he's a sure bet to get on this roster. Has some solid offensive skills, and with a guy like Joe Veleno, could produce a lot of points too. Now we're going to get into the third line for Team Canada, and this third line could look even as strong as the second line. That's how deep this team can be. But going into my left winger for Team Canada, I have Nolan Foote. 2019 draftee of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has taken some big steps in the WHL this season as an overall player, has become the captain for the Kelowna Rockets, and last year he suffered a pretty big, I'm pretty sure it was like a hand injury or something, it was like a wrist injury or something, that kind of held him back a little bit, especially when it came to the point totals he was putting up. So when it came to Tampa getting him in the first round, right now it's looking like a much better pick. He's healthy, ready to go, and should be a big factor for Team Canada throughout the World Junior Tournament. Now alongside of Nolan Foote on that left wing, for my third line center for Team Canada, I have my boy Ty Dellandrea, Dallas Stars prospect. Now Ty Dellandrea so far has gotten 17 points in 13 games, and right now I think for Team Canada is basically the perfect fit as a third line center. Now if he does play as a second line center because of maybe Hayton moving up, that would be fine, but I think he's most suited for that position right now. And I think it would be best for them if possible if they can do something like that. Because on that third line, you now have Nolan Foote, and now you have Ty Dellandrea, which is a sick third line that should never be your third line. Now speaking of shouldn't be on your third line, we're now going to go to the third line right winger in my predictions for Team Canada, that being Akil Thomas. He would center the right wing, but he also is a center, so you could maybe have him as a third line center, maybe you put Dellandrea on the wing, but that's just the versatility that Team Canada has, because there's a bunch of centers there that could fill up those spots, but also play wing at the same time. And when you have a third line of a guy like Nolan Foote, Ty Dellandrea, and Akil Thomas, that's just kind of nasty. Now going on to the fourth line here, and with the fourth line left winger, we have another center that could possibly take up a center spot, but I think we'll play the wing this time around, that being Liam Foudy, Columbus Blue Jackets prospect. Now Liam Foudy gets a ton of respect around Team Canada for some reason. I mean, I'm not really the biggest fan of him. He has decent skate. Obviously he's a great skater. He's over a point per game in the OHL, but he's only played 7 games this season. I'm pretty sure he's working on an injury so far. But when it comes to Liam Foudy, I think he's almost guaranteed for a roster spot. Whether he plays in the fourth line or first line, he will be on Team Canada this year, and likely will get some good minutes too. Now we're going to get into absolutely wacky land, and for my fourth line center, I have Quinton Byfield, dude. When you have Quinton Byfield as your fourth line center, dude, like, that's just kind of insane. And with the way Quinton Byfield has played in the OHL versus Russian series, I think he's been good enough to be deserving of a roster spot for Team Canada. And I don't think there should be any question. Last time I checked, was leading the OHL in points. He's up there and deserves to have a roster spot, whether he was good in that series or not. He's a dynamic player that quite honestly should be higher than the fourth line, but at this point I'm not sure if he'll get that. I think he'll be on the roster, but might not be in the top 6. Now going to the fourth line right winger, we have the fourth line of Foudy on the left side. we have the center as Quinton Byfield. I have Vegas Golden Knights prospect Byfield-Krebs as my fourth line right winger. And like the whole fourth line, having a guy like Byfield-Krebs on your fourth line is absolutely disgusting. But with his Achilles injury that's still working right now, he has yet to play a WHL game. So there is some concern there, but I think he will be back for the World Juniors. And that's the type of injury that is kind of all over the place. We might not even see him in the World Juniors. That still is a question there. But I think he is good enough to make that roster, and hopefully by the time his injury does come to pass and we do see him back fully healthy, he is an impact player for Team Canada, because I think he has the talent to be that type of player. Now, since we have all four forward lines done, we're now going to get into the defensive side of things and get into the defense pairings for Team Canada. And starting out the left defenseman on the first pairing, I'm going to have Devils first rounder Ty Smith. Now, Ty Smith was a guy that I kind of expected to be in the AHL/NHL this season, but I always kind of expected him to be in the World Juniors this year. He had a decent role last year, but this is a year that he can step up and be a big-time defenseman, and as he should be. This season, it hasn't been all that great. So at least offensively, I haven't noticed too much from him, but the World Juniors can change that. And being on that top pairing right now, I think is where he deserves to be. Now, since we have Ty Smith as the left defenseman on the first pair, now on to the right defenseman, and my pick being Jacob Bernard Docker. Now, he's a guy that's had a big season so far in the NCAA. He's an Ottawa Senators prospect, first round pick back in 2018, and has so far had a great NCAA campaign. And with the World Junior team, he's a guy that could take a next step. I'm pretty sure he was on, actually no, he wasn't even on the roster last season, but this year, he's 19 years old. He's in a perfect opportunity to get that kind of spot. He might not be the first pairing guy, but if I'm going to predict anybody to be at that spot, I think he does get the responsibility. Now getting into the second pairing on Team Canada, and for my left defenseman, I have Colorado Avalanche first rounder, Bowen Byram. Now, Bowen Byram hasn't had the greatest season in the WHL this season, but while the points haven't come, he's still played pretty great in my opinion. And on this World Junior team, I think he's almost a lock for that top 4 spot. I don't really care how much he plays or how he plays in the WHL this year. I think on that Team Canada team, he's going to get a ton of responsibility on the power play and the penalty kill, and at age 18, he is still young, but he definitely is good enough to take that on. Now getting into the right defenseman to slot around Bowen Byram, and to me, I think Jet Wu is maybe the perfect fit. Vancouver Canucks second rounder. Of course, back in 2018, when I was thinking of guys that would fit perfectly alongside Byram, Jet Wu to me is the obvious pick. You have Bowen Byram, who's the high-octane, amazing skater and great offensive skills guy. But then you have Jet Wu, who, yes, is good offensively, but the defense is his specialty, and he'll shut you down like nobody else. And for a team like Canada that has a bunch of offensive options, Jet Wu should be a nice, refreshing face on that defense, and a guy that wasn't even there last year either. Now getting into the third pairing for the defenseman, and now on to my pick, I have Jared McIsaac. Detroit Red Wings second rounder back in 2018. Now, McIsaac hasn't played a QMJHL game so far this season, but he had shoulder surgery back in like June, and his timetable is set to return in the next couple of weeks. So he likely will be good enough to return and go to the World Junior Championship squad. He might not be 100% healthy, and we might not see him at the top spot on that defense, but he will likely get some good minutes just like he did last season. Now on to my right defenseman for the third pairing, a guy who I think has been absolutely amazing so far this season. I have Johnny Tychonick. Another Ottawa Senators prospect, another Ottawa Senators defenseman in the NCAA. He's a guy that's had a sneaky good season this season so far, and I think could get some solid minutes for Team Canada. He's 19 years old, he's almost at the age eligibility, and I think he will get a spot there. I think he might not get a top 4 spot. I don't know if he deserves that kind of opportunity, but I think a roster spot at the very least. Even if he's an extra defenseman, I think from how he's played so far, he kind of deserves to get that opportunity. Now with the forwards and the defensemen out of the way, we're going to get into the goaltending for Team Canada. And this might be one of their weaknesses, but it might also turn into their strength somehow. I don't know how it happens, but it just does. Going to my starter though for Team Canada this year, I have Olivier Rodrigue. 2018 second rounder by the Edmonton Oilers. He's a guy that can step into Team Canada and be a real force for them. Now, I don't think he's had the best QMJHL season up to this point, but he's a guy that has a track record with Team Canada, and I think will get the opportunity. He might not deserve it, but I think he will get it. Now, going to my backup goalie for Team Canada, I'm going to go with Alexis Gravel. Now, he's a Chicago Blackhawks prospect. In 10 games in the QMJHL so far, he has not been good whatsoever, but kind of like Rodrigue, he has a great history of Team Canada, being on those tournaments, and I think he will get the nod as the backup. And maybe a couple of games here and there, but for the most part, I think Rodrigue will get the most of the starts, as he should. I don't think either goaltender, maybe even is the best goaltender Canada can have, but I think they will go for the guys that have gone through their system before, and kind of go for the safe picks. Again, I think this is who they'll go for, not who I want to see on their team right now. But as a whole, when you factor in the offense, the defense, and the goaltending, Team Canada is still one of the strongest teams in this tournament, and I think we'll show that. We saw last year how they didn't even get a medal at all. I think that won't be the case for very much longer. I don't know if they'll be able to win a gold medal or something, but just like Team USA, Team Sweden, Team Finland, or all the other teams, they have a solid chance at getting it. And when you have a forward group that is so dynamic through all four lines, that offense will be super fun to watch. And of course, Alexis Lafreniere, who is always fun to watch. But just like Team USA, I'm not fully on the train of them winning a gold medal, but I think at the very least there is a medal in store for them. I could totally see a bronze, silver, or even potentially a gold medal out of this team. But if they're going to want to win that gold medal, the goaltending will have to step up, the defense will have to be a lot better than I expect, and the offense will have to prove themselves as maybe the best in this tournament, which I think is definitely possible. But for this Team Canada team, after the disappointment of last year, there's going to be a lot of the revenge that's going to be wanted this year, as there should be, because last year's performance was not all that great. This year should be a different story. But of course, with my roster predictions for Team Canada in this year's World Juniors, I need to hear y'all's thoughts down in those comments down below. So let me know what you think about my roster and my roster predictions, what you agree and disagree with, and of course the questions on to you. Which players do you see making Team Canada in the 2020 World Juniors? But if y'all want some more Grav videos just like this one, I would heavily recommend you watch this video where I predict Team USA's roster for the World Junior Championships this year. But that'll be it for today. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below your thoughts on my roster predictions, what you agree and disagree with. Share this video with your friends. Let's get the Grav getting up to 10K subscribers, boys. I'm Nathan, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.